Hello everyone, this is part 10 of What If Naruto was female Orochimaru's target, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Darui was reportedly seen leaving the Land of Lightning. Our people lost track of him in the Land of Hot Water, but we suspect he was meeting with whoever is going to be Kumo's front should they wage a proxy war, Tsunade explained. The information had arrived late last night, but Tsunade only learned of it when she arrived in her office. She promptly called for her teammates and her advisors. Should we assassinate him while he's away from the village? Homura asked. They'd been beefing up the counterintelligence on the other villages, mainly their VIPs. Darui was the Raikage's number 2 and rarely left Kumo unless it was business that involved state affairs. Tsunade shook her head in the negative. There are a few issues with that course of action. 1. We may have information on the route he traveled to Hot Water, but there is no guarantee he'd return that way. Secondly, my agents informed me he was not alone. Couple that with being one of the most skilled and powerful shinobi in Kumo's ranks, we'd have to be very selective about who we sent after him, Tsunade reasoned. Surely Team Kakashi or Team Guy would suffice. Both teams have 2 Junin, with the younger ones being prodigies, Homura continued, but frowned when he heard Jiraiya scoff. Is there an issue, Jiraiya? I just think we're throwing around the word prodigy a little loosely. But, more importantly, we know Darui isn't alone. That doesn't tell us how many people are with him, and I'd put good money on him being escorted by Kumo's Anbu. How confident are you that either Neji or Sasuke can handle multiple Black Op ninja, cover their teammates and be ready to assist Guy or Kakashi should they need to? If we send too large a force, they'll most assuredly tip him off, assuming we know where he'd be, and we'd be unable to cover it up. I would have justification to retaliate and we'd look like the aggressors, Jiraiya argued. It wasn't just their commitment to peace that kept Konoha from visibly initiating inter-village conflict. Much of their branding was being the kinder, gentler ninja. It earned derision from the other villages, but the number of contracts Konoha received yearly supported their method. Those contracts meant their genin got less risky and violent missions to start, allowing them to mature and grow instead of the harsher experiences of the other major villages. It is also believed Darui is a moderating voice in the governing structure. If he's gone, we lose someone that may be advocating to avoid this unnecessary conflict, thereby ensuring it will come to pass, Tsunade added. This does seem to support the idea that A is looking for a smaller village to do his dirty work, Koharu interjected. The question is, which one? Claw and Fang can be ruled out, as if either diverted attention to Oto the other would attack them, Homura stated. Not Taki, not since Team 7 saved that cowardly leader. Though they didn't exactly ingratiate themselves, so maybe we could do something to firm up that relationship, Koharu continued. Do you have any ideas? Tsunade questioned. Well, we have a highly trained Jinchuriki, maybe he could share some tips with their own, Koharu suggested. It'd be a show of good faith. I'll draw up the offer today and inform Naruto if Taki agrees. Now, I doubt it's Kusa, but Jiraiya, if you have the resources, have your network pay attention to them, Tsunade ordered. Sure. I'll get right on it. Just another gift of Orochi's misadventures while a Nukanen. I figured the gallant Jiraiya would commend me for rescuing a young girl from being sucked dry. Or is that, like almost everything that comes out of your mouth, complete self-aggrandizing nonsense? Not to mention, she is Naruto-kun's clansman. You didn't have to kill her entire team, Jiraiya pointed out, not even annoyed at her barb. I don't have to do a lot of things I do, but it was faster than negotiation and she wanted to leave, so it all worked out. Okay, enough, you two. We can be reasonably sure Am won't help A. Konan-san may not like us, but I doubt she avoided an invasion just to start a war. Could A have formed a coalition of smaller villages? Homura asked. He doesn't strike me as one for diplomacy, if Sensei is to be believed. Finding a village with an existing grudge is one thing, but bringing others along for a shared vision. I doubt it. His ninja are conditioned to put up with him, but I can't see others following suit, the Godime answered. The meeting continued for a time until Tsunade called an end. There wasn't much to take away from it except for how much the parties involved didn't know, something none were overly comfortable with. As the advisors departed, Orochi was held back at Tsunade's request. Koharu and I are having a ladies' night, so you have to be there, she said. I have plans, Orochimaru responded. No, you don't. I can always tell when you're lying, so you're coming, even if I have to drag you there. Strongest of the Sannin, my ass. Like I told that pervert, anytime you want to test the claim, just let me know. I'll be taking you up on that, but not tonight, Tsunade rejoined and saw her friend looking reluctant. Come on, it'll be fun. You can invite Anko if you want. Fine, but I am not drinking, Orochimaru said, causing Tsunade to snicker. The snake Sannin did not handle alcohol well, and the last Senju always found it adorable. We'll see, Tsunade whispered as her oldest friend departed, looking forward to getting her sloppy drunk and then prying details about her new relationship out of her. So, Mokuton. The lazy Nara air-drawled. His most troublesome teammate informed him of the fruits of his training trip, and Shikamaru almost walked off at the absurdity of it all, especially when Shino relayed how he discovered Naruto's ability with the most vaunted nature release in the entire village. The three laid underneath the early morning sun at their team training ground. Created an apple tree, Shika said, words dripping with skepticism. To impress your new girlfriend. Who is Orochimaru of the Sannin? You knew I had feelings for her before I left, dummy, Naruto retorted. I thought it was one-sided, a crush. Besides, she stabbed you. That was a misunderstanding. She threatened to kill Mai and Shino's entire clan, Shikamaru continued. She was just playing. Shikamaru ignored that asinine response. And you're happy. We just started dating, Shika, but yay. Fine, I approve. Oh. No warnings of her dastardly evil plans. Nope. However, my acceptance comes with a price. You're my friend, bastard. No, it doesn't. It does. She knows as well, and because you're our friend, you'll do it without complaint. Naruto propped himself up on his elbows as he stared at his friend, curious what the pineapple-haired boy could want. Shikamaru never took his eyes off the few clouds that could be found in the sky, but he felt Naruto's gaze. He decided to drag the weight on for a bit, just to mess with his teammate. You're going to host a party tonight. Team Asuma, Team Kakashi, and Team Guy will be in attendance. Maybe a few others. Nope, Naruto said emphatically. No complaining was a condition, Naruto, Shino chimed in. I haven't complained, I just denied the request, the Uzumaki corrected. Troublesome, how are you going to be Hokage if you aren't even known by your own generation, Naruto? You need to start building a reputation and connections, Shikamaru started, or if you don't want to do that, then just tell everyone the fourth is your father. How did you figure it out? Naruto asked, and he saw both his teammates smirk. With great effort and even greater care, was Shino's reply. It wasn't easy, you two look more alike now than you did before you left. My question is, why didn't you tell us? I'll answer your question with a question, Shika, what was your first response when you confirmed the Yondaime was my father? Shikamaru didn't answer, but the grimace Naruto saw on his face was all he needed. That explains it. Or something to that effect, right? Naruto asked, rhetorically. I was already under one shadow, I didn't want to be under another, and I didn't want people thinking all my effort was basically worthless when compared to the obvious genius I inherited. It's bullshit, and even you, knowing me better than almost anyone, couldn't help yourself, Naruto said, looking at the sky. I don't still believe that, Naruto, Shikamaru defended. I didn't suspect you did, but not everyone is you. If my abilities aren't attributed to the Kyuubi, then they will be laid at the feet of my father's legacy. I respect him, but not so much I want him given credit for my hard work. Especially when you want to surpass him, Shino added, and Naruto nodded. Exactly. All the more reason to extend your network. If you will not have the benefit of legacy, then you have to become more visible, the Aburame concluded. Fine. I'm assuming you spoke with Tayuya and Karen about this, right? I don't want them surprised by this, it's their house too. Yes, I spoke with Tayuya and Karen and they consented. Ugh. Alright. What do I need to do? Get the food, set up your backyard. Do you have a grill? I can get one, intending to experiment with his steel release to make one. Please do, Choji will man it. You will also need to come to terms with Team Guy, Shino added. I've come to terms, I'm not the one with the problem. And can you not see why they would have one? Shikamaru questioned. You didn't have to do what you did, you had other ways to beat Lee and Neji. I gave them a chance to concede. Neither of them took it, so how am I responsible for their refusal? To acknowledge you. Because that's what it was about. Two more Konoha ninja that couldn't give you your due, so you had to punish them for it. Punish them in ways you wouldn't be allowed to otherwise. When did you become a Yamanaka? Naruto asked, and while he tried to hide it, both Shino and Shika heard the anger in his voice. Troublesome. Before you fly off the handle, I'm not saying you have to apologize. What you did was justifiable, even merciful to enemy ninja. They were competitors, not enemies, and that's the difference. And if you just wanted to be a career Junin, it wouldn't matter, but you want more. People will fear you, Naruto, unless you give them a reason not to. People feared me long before I'd given them a reason to. Point of fact, they feared the Kyuubi. That fear has waned, but if it becomes necessary for you to demonstrate your abilities, those who have alienated you may expect and dread reprisals for the previous behavior, Shino interjected. What am I supposed to do? Shake babies and kiss hands. Just let the rest of the village get to know the extreme pain in the ass we've come to tolerate. That hurt, Shino. Kurenai-sensei did call you her problem child, Shika offered as support. She just said that because I'm her favorite, Naruto countered. I think it's pretty obvious I would be her favorite. Why? Because I am even-tempered, reasonably hard-working and low maintenance. Troublesome, it would be me. I'm the most naturally inclined toward her specialization. I don't get into stupid competitions, nor do I buzz like a low-powered vibrator. You familiar with the sound and various power levels of a lot of vibrators, Shika? I'd imagine he would be. Why? Sex would be too troublesome, Shino observed, causing Shikamaru to gain a look of annoyance as Naruto laughed. Asshole, Shikamaru said, though there was no real heat to it. Alright, enough about Shika's sexual inadequacies, gentlemen. We came here to train, so let's get wild, Naruto said enthusiastically, doing a handspring to return to his feet. If we run, would he follow us? Shikamaru whispered to Shino. Like a hound on a scent, Shino replied. I wouldn't have to, ya bums. I've already tagged you both. Now, let's get after it. Onoki, the longest-serving Kage in the history of the hidden villages, was currently having a staring contest with his granddaughter. She often proclaimed she'd replace him one day, and he didn't doubt her potential as a kunoichi. It was her distaste for other considerations that gave him pause. But if she wanted to lead his village, he'd drag her along kicking and screaming. This was one such attempt, a strategy session. He needed to come to a decision regarding Konoha soon, and felt it was the perfect situation to teach his granddaughter how a Kage must think. Well, the aged Chushikage asked. I say we stay out of it, let the tree huggers fend for themselves. And if they should lose? Better yet, if Konoha should fall, what then? Then they're gone and we'd have had no hand in it. And besides Konoha separating us, what would make Kumo and Iwa allies? You think they'd attack us after defeating Konoha? Kurotosuke asked. I think if they were to claim that significant of a victory, we'd be foolish not to prepare. That still isn't enough reason to ally with Konoha. It's not like we'd get much out of it, it's just a mutual protection deal. Not even a trade agreement, Kurotosuke answered, but scowled when she saw her grandfather shake his head in disappointment. She hated when the old man did that. An agreement of mutual protection is a trade deal. If any citizen from the land of earth or fire were to be attacked while traveling to the other nation, but villages would have the license to act, including merchants. As it is now, those that would risk traveling between our nations are not enjoying the joint protections, and therefore there is very little trade. Then join them. But Kumo has the strongest military force, the most ninja per capita, and the highest military spending of the major villages. Who knows what kind of developments they are making, what kind of breakthroughs they may share with an ally or use against an enemy. Then don't join Konoha and join Kumo. There is also Suna to consider. They are on an upswing, their Kage is young but powerful. Especially in the deserts of Wind Country. What do you want me to say, old man? What's the right choice? That's a matter of perspective. Many would claim Konoha had never lost a shinobi war, and in direct combat that is true. However, after the first shinobi war, the ironworkers that resided in the land of fire migrated to the land of stone. We saw an increase in the quality of our weapons due to their proximity, which increased the efficiency within our missions and an increase in revenue. Konoha wins the second shinobi war, but Am permanently closes its borders and travel has to divert. The exchanges happening in the land of rivers is the seed that eventually causes Suna and Konoha to become an alliance. All from increased interaction and interdependence. What about the third shinobi war? Honestly, no one gained much from that. Konoha should have, but the rampage of the Kyuubi just a few years after the war's end eroded any gains they could have made. There are a lot of ways to analyze this choice, and whether something is right or wrong is often a matter of execution of a decision, not the decision itself. Then what are you going to do? Kurotosuke asked. I don't know, Onoki answered. He had a lot of information, but the key piece of the puzzle, why A was doing this, was missing. The fence-sitter wouldn't make a move until he knew why. He could tell his granddaughter didn't like that answer. She was decisive, preferring a fast and wrong choice to a slow and correct one. It was understandable, she was the type to face the consequences of her actions head-on. But sometimes caution, mapping out the angles before you moved, was the right course. She needed patience. Patience was not something Onoki lacked. It had earned him his nickname, what many said as an insult. What many people didn't understand was that power and authority could be felt in its action and inaction. By delaying a formal agreement with Konoha, Kumo was given the chance to make a counter-offer. That they hadn't did not give Onoki a clear window into A's thinking, but the Chushikage suspected it meant his fellow village leader was prepared to see this through, confident he didn't need allies to accomplish his goal. But what was it? A had been amassing power, attempting to steal bloodlines for years. It was one of the reasons Onoki hired the Akatsuki, so he could better train and prepare his forces. But what was A after? Onoki doubted the Raikage believed he could truly destroy Konoha with Kumo's might alone. The Sannin, Hiruzen and a cast of other elite ninja were enough to dismiss that idea. Then there was Konoha's Jinchuriki. If he didn't have it on good authority that Hiruzen and the Namikaze boy weren't on good terms, he'd swear the old monkey had attempted to create a shinobi in his own image. Mastering all 5 nature releases before adolescence, additional training by Hiruzen's very own students. Jinchuriki was supposed to be S-rank ninja because of their biju, not despite or in addition to. If A was solely motivated to remove the boy from the board, Onoki would understand. It was one of the reasons Onoki hadn't shared Rasa's file with anyone but his most trusted advisor. He hadn't told Roshi why he wanted Han and he to meet the boy, outside of being a fellow Jinchuriki. Onoki didn't blindly hate Minato, but he couldn't fault his ninja for doing so. One man changed the tide of the war, and on his way to the Pure Land gifted his, apparently, genius son with the most powerful of the biju. Onoki wondered if Kurotosuke could stand up to such a ninja in the future. The future, the august Kage thought. All Kage dedicated themselves to that. Present-day strength was for the protection of the future. His mind, not dulled by age, spun rapidly. Could that be A's goal? A war to remove Konoha's potential? Weaken him for a generation or more? Is that why the man doesn't care about creating allies? To win only requires the death of what, 10 to 15 ninja? It was just speculation, but Onoki had this feeling he was right. If so, it raised more questions and left the elder with even more plans to consider. But that was fine. He would only move at the exact right time and not a second before. So, should I make myself scarce tonight? Jiraiya asked his godson as several clones finished setting up for the gathering that was to occur later in the evening. There were now wood tables and benches under a recently created gazebo. Torches were set up but unlit, for when the sun went down, and off to the side sat the concrete pit waiting to be lit for tonight's festivities. There will be other adults here. You can talk to them about how kids these days blah 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 blah, Naruto answered. Jiraiya matched Naruto's grin before feigning annoyance. I am so not one of those, back in my day, geezers. But you brats should respect the amazing, enviable, number 1 gallant shinobi. And if you keep adding adjectives, I'm sure we will someday. Of course, someday we'll all be dead, but you have to think the odds are with you on this one. Was your mouth always this smart and I just never noticed? No. There was that period after you told me I was the shinobi messiah and I was too freaked out to be funny, Naruto retorted, and Jiraiya scratched the back of his head in shame. Oh, yay. Enough of that, perv. I made my peace with it, Naruto admonished after seeing Jiraiya become sullen. Oi. Stump. Naruto heard Tayuya call, not that it had been necessary. You ever get tired of her calling you that? Jiraiya asked. Yes, but I really don't want to encourage her to get creative, Naruto answered as they walked toward their just-arrived guests. Shika and Shino had arrived with Ino and Choji. Naruto smiled as he approached the group. Hey, guys, welcome to my home, he greeted as he slipped into host mode. Across the village, several of the Leaf's most prominent women sat around a rectangular table. Sake, tea and snacks were available as they watched the last of their party settle in. Kurenai sat down and an attendant prepared her tea and then exited. It is so lovely to see you all here again, Koharu offered, as she was the hostess of this gathering. She was transitioning out of public life, not that she minded. Tsunade had Jiraiya and Orochi to advise her, Shizune to temper her. It was long past time to allow the younger generations to come fully into their own. But she still had a lifetime of wisdom to share, so these gatherings were meant to make the generation after Tsunade's comfortable enough to seek her out should they desire to do so. She also hoped they would continue the tradition. Thank you for hosting us, Koharu-sama, Shizune replied, selecting tea over alcohol but knowing her teacher would do the opposite. Yay, enough of this formal stuff. I'm here to relax, Tsunade cut in. Anko snickered at the Godime's brashness. Kurenai smiled politely but Yugao and Orochi had no outward reaction. If Mito-sama could see how boorish you behave, she'd cane you, Tsunade-chan, Koharu responded. Don't be like that, I have to be formal all day, Tsunade complained. Kikuku, so much easier when you could just punch everything, Orochimaru observed. Exactly. Tsunade brightened as she answered. Koharu simply sighed and decided to move along. Kurenai, how are you, dear? Just really ready to not be pregnant anymore, honestly. If it isn't being as big as a house, it's all the people that hover over me like I'm made of glass. Asuma. Anko asked. Him and my boys, well, Shino and Shikamaru. I wouldn't be surprised if I had a panther summons watching me and I just don't know it, as well, the Genjutsu mistress said. It was voiced as a complaint but no one missed the fond smile she donned. You settled on a name? Yugao asked. Mirei Sarutobi, said Kurenai and got a round of approving words from most of the party. All but Orochimaru. The snake Sannin hadn't thought much about giving birth, not since she aborted her baby. However, that was before Naruto. She knew one of his drives was to have a family and she wouldn't deny him that. In truth, if the two kept going how they were, she'd be pregnant sooner rather than later. One could forgive Naruto for being lax, as her supposed physical age would put her past any concerns about conception. However, that wasn't the reality and she was fully capable of conceiving a child. Sensei, Anko called out, breaking Orochi from her thoughts. Where'd you go? Tsunade asked. The smug look on her face suggested the question was rhetorical. Wherever it was doesn't matter, you're falling behind, so drink up. The Sannin rolled her eyes at her former teammate as she took a saucer to her lips, downing the liquid contained therein. Happy. Ecstatic. The night progressed as previous. The previous get-togethers had, the women sharing in their personal and professional developments. Tips and suggestions were shared, support given. Even with the haze of overconsumption setting in, Tsunade noticed Orochimaru had been more quiet than normal. Tsunade had watched her friend get more comfortable, or more accurate watched as the women in this room grew more comfortable with her. Oi, Orochi, what's got you so quiet? Concocting a plot to harvest your souls, the Sannin answered and laughed at the looks being sent her way. Looks that couldn't dismiss her words outright but were betting she wasn't being serious. PFF'd, you can have it. And then do all my damn work while you're at it. Although, you might have a fight if you try to take the hat, Tsunade announced. Kikuku, don't worry Tsunade-chan, I no longer desire that position, Orochi said to her fellow Sannin. The look on Tsunade's face told the snake summoner she'd clearly blundered into something. Oh, and what positions do you desire? Or is it more important about who you do them with? Tsunade asked. That's lewd, Tsunade-sama, Shizune admonished. Oh, Shizu-chan, that's the point. Besides, don't act like a prude. I know those extra long lunches you take aren't because you like to savor your food. Shizune went red at Tsunade's words. Don't be embarrassed, Shizune-chan. Genma is a fine, young man. Even Minato thought so, Koharu relayed and watched as the young woman nodded in acknowledgement. Yay, Shizune. Hurry up and pop out some kids I can spoil. I'll make them poker aces by the time they can walk, Tsunade spoke, cheerily. She was genuinely happy for her student and friend, knowing the constant travel had cost Shizune a lot. Tsunade wanted her student to take advantage of this stability as much as she could. You couldn't even make yourself one, Tsunade-chan, Orochimaru responded. The Senju gained a tick mark. That's because I have bad luck, not due to a lack of skill. Excuses, Tsunade-chan. I'm never too far from a deck of cards, Orochi. If you want, we can start up a game, though if I beat you I'm sure as shit not taking you out for ice cream, Tsunade finished with a devilish grin. I'd never get any if it depended on your winning a bet anyway, Orochimaru returned. Tsunade pulled out her cards as she spoke. We're doing this and don't go crying to your boyfriend when I spank you. All the women watched as the two most powerful kunoichi, and possibly ninja period, of the village bickered like children. It was Kurenai who dwelled on Tsunade's use of the word boyfriend and wondered if Naruto had already begun a relationship. She'd have to talk to her problem child soon. Kurenai didn't distrust the snake Sannin anymore, but it never hurt to stay on top of things. Yay, Naruto. Do a cool lava jutsu. Kiba exclaimed. He realized his error when Sakura facepalmed, Sasuke, Tsuke, and Kakashi-sensei sent him the "I'm totally going to kill you but I'm pretending to be super chill" vibe. Was that still a secret? He asked bashfully, and even Akamaru walked away from his partner. Shikamaru grimaced. This night had been going so well. Choji and Naruto hit it off, as he suspected, and fell into an easy rapport. Team Kakashi arrived late, Kiba bringing a few kegs with him, but were genial. Even Team Guy had been pleasant, if a bit frosty, until Lee broke down and challenged Naruto to a youthful spar at a later date, which caused Guy-sensei to cry at the display. The plan was working. That was good. Better still was Temari was here and Shikamaru got to relax with her, confident no one would do anything to make a scene. But things couldn't hold. He should have expected it. No one just becomes a Junin as a teenager, that is a mix of ability and drive, the same mix that points to an innate sense of competitiveness. Sasuke had it, Neji had it, and while well hidden Naruto had it as well. The difference between them was that Naruto was competing with the Hokage, specifically the Nadaime, Sandaime and Yondaime. It wasn't arrogance, there just hadn't been a reason for Naruto to measure himself against his generation because the gap between them and who he wanted to surpass was immense. That's why when Sasuke showed off an impressive Kaiten jutsu and Neji demonstrated the power of his vacuum palms, Naruto simply felt no need to follow suit. That simply wasn't going to do. Everyone in attendance, save Shino and he, wanted to see the ninjutsu prodigy do something. Not used to this level of attention, Naruto got awkward and just agreed to get everyone to stop. The Uzumaki's mistake had been in asking what they wanted to see. Because by asking, Kiba gave him an honest answer. Naruto's blue eyes stared intently into Kiba's own. His posture was relaxed, and Shika didn't know if that was a good or a bad sign. What calculus was being conducted in the Uzumaki's brain was unknowable. As the moments stretched on, Shikamaru found aid from an unlikely ally. The secret is out, so just do the fucking jutsu, or don't and fuck him up but take action, stump, Tayuya bellowed. Hey, now, there won't be any need for that, Jiraiya said as if he were concerned Naruto might take option A and use it toward option B. Naruto rolled his eyes. He knew he'd likely start showing off his real abilities soon, he just wanted to gauge the reaction of those in attendance. Relax, Godfather. No one is going to attack anyone over a slip of the tongue. We're all comrades here, Naruto said. He then turned away from his audience and walked over to the pond. Flashing through a series of hand seals, Naruto performed the internal manipulation, adding pressure and heat to Radoten base. Dividing up the chakra into a semi-solid orbs and then launching a series of them from his mouth. The teams watched as condensed globs of lava tore upward, but that wouldn't be all. As they reached the peak of their ascent, they exploded into many smaller pieces and descended into the body of water like a storm of falling stars, causing steam to arise on contact. Lava style, meteor shower, Naruto said as he walked back toward his guests. Show off, observed Sasuke, and Naruto shrugged. That's how you got the lava ash. You bastard, I begged you to tell me. And Shika, you knew the entire time. Ino griped. I was sworn to secrecy. It was your secret, the Yamanaka exclaimed. Shikamaru laughed, his attempt to cover failing. It was too late. The troublesome blonde heard him and he'd pay for it tomorrow. Well, Naruto, it appears you are becoming slightly impressive, Kakashi observed. I'm glad you said so since you owe me a spar, Naruto replied. Kakashi took a quick look over to Jiraiya, the Sannin shaking his head no, and it confirmed his suspicion. Seems little brother wanted some revenge, but that was not the privilege of the younger sibling. Ma, Naruto. I'm terribly busy, you see. Kiba needs some remedial training, I have to prepare for when I escort Hokage-sama to Suna. Missions, my reading, I lead a very full life. If I didn't know any better, Nisama, Naruto's words laced with false innocence, I'd say you were trying to avoid me. And after 3 years away. That simply won't suffice, Tobio. Wait, why are you calling Kakashi-sensei your older brother? Kiba asked. Naruto was tempted to inform the Inuzuka he'd be unlikely to answer that question to a loose-lipped lightweight but withheld the information. Since talking to Shika about why he hadn't told them, Naruto started to reconsider his reasons. No, he didn't want to be under his dad's shadow, but he was damn proud of the man. The Yondaime had been his second favorite Hokage and he'd wanted to surpass him along with Tobirama-sama. And the truth was, he either could do so or he couldn't. Trying to avoid the shadow didn't change that. Because Minato Namikaze was my father and his sensei. He saw the skeptical looks from those around him, except Temari. Naruto assumed Baki-san or Gaara told her at some point. No matter how close they got, the Uzumaki couldn't see Shikamaru sharing that information with her without talking to him first. It's true, Jiraiya announced, as he hoped to prevent anyone from saying something stupid. Then how come no one knew? Sakura asked in mild disbelief. You'd have to ask the old man, Naruto replied. The old man, do you mean Sandaime-sama? Tenten questioned. Naruto nodded. You should speak about him with more respect, the weapons mistress scolded. As they were behind her, she didn't see Guy, Asuma and Jiraiya tense. Naruto, however, had seen them and rolled his eyes. He wouldn't deny he could have a bit of a temper and hated the old man, but he wasn't a maniac. I've always called him that. If he had a problem with it he'd say something. Still, his reasons were his own. It seems fate truly shined upon you, Naruto-san, Neji said with just a hint of bitterness in his tone. Sure, Naruto returned, having no interest in that train of thought. But Neji had other plans. Do you deny it? Trained by 2 of the Sanins, gifted like your father. Have you not been fortunate? Some good some bad, not really interested in taking a tally. If you need to believe some divine force has blessed me then good on you. Not really my bag, though. The workings of fate are undeniable. Winners and losers chosen at birth. Yay, I've heard this before. You were the winner and I the loser, right? Or are you now the loser? Seems imprecise for a worldview. Those who deny fate are punished. Let Hinata-sama be a testament to that, Neji argued, the anger at Naruto's dismissiveness reaching a boiling point. Guy, you better shut that kid up before I do it for you, Asuma spoke sternly. He wouldn't have his late student insulted in front of him and Neji was old enough to be held accountable for his words. Maybe we should change topics, Neji. It isn't befitting to speak such ways about the fallen. I mean no insult, Guy-sensei. It is simply the truth. She actively rebelled against the Hyuga traditions, against her fate, and when the time came she was ill-equipped. Had she trained as a true Hyuga she may have survived and lived long enough to lead our clan. Only Team Guy truly knew the complicated feelings Neji had about Hinata's death. In life, he hated her. She represented every source of unfairness and pain in his life. She rejected the Hyuga traditions in ways he'd never have been allowed to. The former seal on his forehead assured compliance. The resentment never truly went away, but he also never wanted her to die. His statements were not meant as an admonishment but a warning. She tried to be something other than what she should have been and forfeited her life in exchange. It made him anxious to learn Hanabi planned to do the same, especially as he had a significantly better relationship with her. Your words are illogical, Shino said. It is a tautological fairy tale. To what end I will not speculate, but I will say, you know nothing of Naruto if you think he was selected a winner at birth, and the very idea offends me. I did not know Hinata-san well, but she died supporting her team and that deserves more than to be characterized as a failure of her abilities. Fuck yeah, you're being an asshole, Tayuya rejoined. Hey, don't talk to him like that, Tenten exclaimed. Or what, you tree-hugging bitch. Oral, Tenten never finished her statement as a foreboding wave washed over all. Shino and Shikamaru knew what that was. Not killing intent but akin. It made you want to sit down, shut and obey because the person who projected it meant business and would hurt you if you didn't. Beads of sweat appeared on several foreheads as a result, but the arguing stopped. Thank you, Shino. You, too, Tayuya, Naruto spoke calmly. A tone that didn't match the vibe he'd sent out. I won't argue your beliefs, Neji. I do feel fortunate the Yondaime was my father even if he only got to be so for a few hours. If my parentage explains something to you or sets your world right, fine. Whatever gets you through the day. I appreciate you all coming. Thank you for cooking choji, it was a meal to remember. I sincerely hope we can do this again, but I think it best we call it a night, yay. Naruto created several clones to clean up after his gathering, one to see everyone off while he shunshined to the roof. He needed a little alone time. Tayuya and Shino retired to her room for the night while Shikamaru and Temari trailed behind Choji and Ino. It was almost a successful night, Shika, Temari offered. Shikamaru awarded her with a smile. He figured she'd understand what he was doing, she'd likely had to do things to rehabilitate Gaara's image in Suna. I'd call it a success. Before his training trip, Naruto would have leapt over that table and beat Neji within an inch of his life. That's assuming he hadn't done it to Kiba. I'm almost proud of him. Temari laughed and Shikamaru wished he could elicit that response on command with how light it made him feel. I remember the first time I witnessed Gaara settle a dispute with just his words and no threats. The pride I felt was immeasurable, so I understand where you're coming from. Our troublesome redheads are growing up so fast. The pair moved about the village, the starlight of the village's outskirts giving way to the street lights of its urban core. Side by side they walked, talking around an issue neither wanted to address. Temari was to leave within a couple of weeks, returning to Suna. Shikamaru wouldn't be traveling with the Hokage's envoy, Kurenai Sensei's due date was just around that time. When she left, it may be quite some time before they saw each other again. And if something happened, if Konoha was pulled into a war with Kumo, it could be longer still, or never again. Shikamaru sometimes wondered if it had been better if he'd waited. The hidden villages were not in a period of stability, the current tensions could not continue without a triggering event occurring. Maybe he should have held off until those events transpired, had faith they'd both live through them. Of course, there was no guarantee she'd still be available or interested if he had. On some level, Shikamaru knew this was all pointless speculation. He wouldn't change things, but he simply couldn't turn his brain off as it churned through the possibilities. He could never know if he'd done the right thing or the smart thing. The Nara's thoughts were broken up when he felt himself being pushed. Years of honed reflexes allowed Shikamaru to right himself without any difficulty. He looked over to his companion in mock annoyance. You aren't going to figure out the world by the time we reach the embassy. Stop thinking so hard. I certainly won't now. What a drag. Shikamaru was rewarded with another bout of Temari's laughter. The next day found Tsunade at her private training grounds. As was her routine, Hiruzen was there as well. As the Sandaime had promised, he continued to train Tsunade even after she was named his replacement. Tsunade kept to the arrangement as she was seeing improvements in her long-neglected ninjutsu, non-medical, repertoire. It also allowed her to keep tabs on her sensei. She knew he likely still had some kind of plan to trap Orochi. Today, however, was different as the teacher and student had two visitors. Her Anbu alerted her that Jiraiya and Naruto were requesting permission to join her for the session. She granted permission and the two appeared before her in an instant. Both Hiruzen and her awaited an explanation, after an exchange of pleasantries, an exchange that was stilted and forced. It dawned on her that this may have been the first time Sensei and Naruto had seen each other since the latter's return. What's going on? She asked, breaking up the bickering duo. She saw Naruto scratch the back of his head, something he did when he was feeling shy or embarrassed. She couldn't for the life of her figure out what would cause that reaction. Then she wondered if maybe it was advice he sought, maybe advice about a certain snake summoner. Just tell her, kid, Jiraiya said. He could never get used to when his godson got like this. Strongest shinobi of the village but gets bashful over the weirdest things. So, Kakashi let it slip he's going to be one of your guards during the Chunin exams. Jiraiya and I figured neither of us would be your second since we hadn't been informed yet. Yes, that's true, Tsunade confirmed. Well, the rakeage is going to be there, Naruto continued. If anyone else had said that, the implication of the statement would have caused Tsunade to lose her temper and beat them senseless for it. As if she couldn't handle a. Yes, he will. What's going on, Naruto? Well, I know you're super strong and all, but his lightning armor just presents a hard counter to your best abilities. Over my training trip I developed some workarounds to his cloak. Jiraiya knows them, too, but since we won't be there I was wondering if you'd like to learn them as well. Hiruzen had to fight back a pang of regret seeing the interaction between Naruto and Tsunade. He recalled the bright-eyed, little boy he used to regale with stories of the Hokage. The second and the fourth were always his favorites. Naruto idolized them, most residents did, but it was always different with the Uzumaki. To be able to teach a Hokage something, it would mean a great deal to him, and explained his manner. I certainly don't mind, Naruto, but how do you know your methods will work? Tsunade posed the sensible question. Naruto took a look at Jiraiya, and the Toad Sage nodded his head in support. Naruto took a deep breath before performing a sequence of hand signs. Immediately the area surrounding Naruto exploded. When the dust settled, the San and Godime stood in shock as the Uzumaki was covered in red lightning chakra armor. The only way I could be, Tobio. Jiraiya marched at a deliberate pace. He didn't even pay much attention to the destruction that surrounded him. Walls of stone overtaken by glacial constructs. Fires as hot as the sun danced about, never managing to truly ignite the trees they were at the base of. Even an assortment of steel weapons lay about. It was a mess. Or, more accurately, it was a war. A war of one boy against himself. When Naruto first proposed this training method, Jiraiya thought he was merely being philosophical. How else does one understand the question, can you beat a better version of yourself? He simply didn't give it any more thought until he saw his godson fighting a Sage Mode Shadow clone. He lost it, lectured the boy about his careless stupidity and arrogance. Sage Mode was his trump card for a reason, even an imperfect version provided such a massive increase in abilities, awareness, stamina, and durability that what Naruto was attempting was suicidal. Can you beat a better version of yourself? Was his only reply, and the Toad Sage wondered if the boy had been knocked around too much or completely gone around the bend. Until the Sannin really considered the conundrum. At that point, Naruto was amassing a great deal of skill and power. His body was maturing, his chakra manipulation was expanding and refining even more than they had been. Jiraiya doubted he'd find too many people that could simply outpower the Uzumaki Jinchuriki. But strength isn't everything. Rely too much on it and you'll be at a loss for when it fails you, when it turns out not to be enough. By fighting a categorically better version of himself, Naruto couldn't simply rely on his advantages. He had to get creative, use cunning and misdirection. He had to fight like a ninja. That level of consideration surprised Jiraiya. He knew his godson wasn't stupid, far from it, but he often ignored the similarities between Hiruzen and red-haired Container. He'd also never voiced the comparison. Improved he may have been, Naruto was still an Uzumaki and they were volatile people. I almost had him, pervy sage, Naruto said between breaths. Jiraiya rolled his eyes as he picked his godson up and put him over his shoulder. Yay, you did. But what happens if you actually manage to beat the clone? Weep, for I will have no more lands to conquer, obviously. Yes, quite obvious. Let's see how smart that mouth is when Shizune sees you, Jiraiya said. What? You're taking me home? I don't need a hospital. Don't be a dick. I could just take you home, but it'd cost you. Are you blackmailing me? Naruto asked in disbelief. Jiraiya laughed as he moved through the training grounds. Yes. Whatever leverage you have ends in like 20 minutes, Naruto pointed out. He was going to recover fast and the clone hadn't hurt him that bad. The only threat Jiraiya had was Shizune and Saito-san's reaction when Naruto walked him into the hospital. But he could endure that and then kick Jiraiya's ass later. Hell, he could just heal now, but Kurama requested he not be bothered with petty nonsense from his idiot Container. You're right, but there is one thing you haven't considered. Everyone will think I did this to you. Almost no one knows that's laughable, so they'll write it off. If I tell Shizune you did this to yourself, she'll throw an absolute fit and won't let you leave for the rest of the day. I can freaking teleport. And have your surrogate sister worry. Nope. That's your weakness, kiddo, and I'm exploiting it for my own gain. I hope it's worth the ass kicking you're going to get for this later, Tobio. Now, no need for hard words. I just told Tsunade that Orochi and you would join us for dinner is all. And of course, she couldn't pass up seeing the two lovebirds in the wild. Are you scamming a double date off me? Naruto asked in further disbelief. By hook or by crook. Fine. I'll ask Orochi-chan, but you better be glad you're actually not a shit godfather or sensei. If you hadn't really trained me, I'd let your ass twist in the wind. An hour later, Naruto arrived at Orochimaru's, wanting to leave enough time to convince her should it be required. 2 short knocks and he was greeted with the visage his girlfriend in a scarlet robe. Wordlessly she led the Uzumaki to her kitchen, where she'd been enjoying some tea and a quiet morning. Kabuto was already at the hospital, leaving her to bask in her solitude, not that she minded seeing her maelstrom. Naruto took a seat as Orochimaru retrieved another cup. What brings you by so early, Naruto-kun? Oh, I would love to say I was guided by nothing but the spirit of romance, but I am here to request a favor. A favor? Orochimaru asked, pouring tea into the cup. Yup. I saw favor as you may be inclined to say no, but I am hoping my being in your debt will entice you to my cause. I am certainly intrigued, she said, leaving the cup on the counter and swaying seductively. Reaching his seat, she straddles her lover, yellow eyes looking intently. And for this favor I can ask you anything I want in return. His nod brings a smile to her lips and she gently starts to grind into him. She'd likely had done whatever he was going to ask, but the timing was perfect. They'd been together for a little over a month now, and while some may think this next step was a bit fast, it was always going to happen. That he wouldn't be in a position to refuse her made it all the better. Naruto was lost in the sensation, briefly forgetting why he was there in the first place. He got over the short-term loss of his executive function, but it almost slipped again when he felt her nibble his ear. He resolved himself to stay focused and not do what it is he really wanted to, and what her kitchen table looked sturdy enough to handle. Jiraiya wants us to go to dinner with him tonight, so soon it a bargain will. Kikuku, is that all? She asked, increasing the pace of her grinding. And you have to be nice. So that's the real favor. Naruto chuckled, yay. Orochimaru pulled back and looked into Naruto's eyes. Fine, I will go to dinner and be halfway decent to that miserable toad. And since I have agreed, you wouldn't mind me cashing in right now, would you? No, Naruto said, proud he'd kept his voice from quivering. He felt her grab his hand, that had been resting on her thigh. She intertwined her hand into his, a sinister smile on her face. Naruto watched as a small white snake wrapped around his wrist. He looked into her eyes, his confusion evident. Her smile only widened. Manda wants to talk to you, was the last thing he heard before he felt the pull of a being summoned. Once the smoke cleared, Naruto found himself dumbfounded and half erect, being glared at by a purple people-eater. Oh, she's getting it so hard when I get back, was Naruto's thought, determined to really test the strength of her bed frame. Realizing the large snake wasn't going to say anything, Naruto concluded he had to initiate things. Sup. Kakashi stood perfectly still in front of the memorial stone. It was early yet, and with his team departed on an escort mission, he had a lot of time to himself. Some assumed he came to this stone to ruminate over his past, or even excoriate himself in an attempt to alleviate his survivor's guilt. For a while, that had been exactly why he spent so much time in front of the tribute to the fallen. But not anymore, and not for several years. With all humility, Kakashi knew he was the premier ninja of Konoha during the time the Sannin had left. He found it oddly fitting, but not for any laudatory reasons. Like the village, Kakashi had lost his way after Minato-sensei's death. He sank into duty, while not fulfilling his true duty, to what remained of his sensei's legacy. By the time he pulled himself together, the Sandaime forbade him to be directly involved in Naruto's life. So he watched, doing what little he could while acting as a silent guardian. He watched as the young boy developed and was filled with a greater sense of pride than anything before. He saw him fight through the hate and isolation, staying focused on a goal. When Kakashi summoned Pakken in front of a 7-year-old Naruto he'd hoped the boy would try, he'd done the hand sign slowly while calling him out for that exact purpose. He assumed Naruto would be aligned with the toads and they'd take care of him. Not a perfect plan, but it worked, and Naruto got a measure of happiness because of his connection to the Panthers. As Kakashi read over the names of the fallen, he would often contemplate Konoha as a symbol, a location, and a people. Danzo fetishized the location, he cared little for the people and did not believe in the will of fire. The Sandaime fetishized the people, overlooking their faults while basking in their praise. He had no doubts that Minato-sensei sacrificed everything for all three. Kakashi didn't know if he felt the same. He'd seen these people disregard his sensei while having the temerity to praise him. It was galling. Deep in thought, Kakashi-kun asked an aged voice from behind. No more than usual, Sandaime-sama. Uncover any great truths. I try, but they seem to elude me. I understand, boy. I understand. Change is the only constant, and yet even the nature of change is in flux. Just 3 years ago, if I requested a ninja's audience, I received it without question. Now, they feel free to ignore me or come at their leisure. It's somewhat jarring to grow accustomed to. Hiruzen moved toward Kakashi, standing right beside him as he finished. I have been very busy, Sandaime-sama. Yes, I see, the former Hokage observed, dryly. I do not blame you for not wishing to be in my presence. I strained our relationship, or more accurately, your trust in me. I regret it, Kakashi. I regret a lot of things, and I fear I will never be able to truly make amends. You owe me nothing, Sandaime-sama, Kakashi said. It wasn't the truth, but the Hokage didn't want to be on the man's apology tour. He abused his authority, and there was nothing to be said beyond that. At the very least, I owe you an apology. I am sorry for a great many things, but keeping you away from Naruto was a mistake. I see it now more than ever. Kakashi thought. It always led back to Orochimaru. By keeping you and others away from Naruto, by alienating him, I left him vulnerable to Orochimaru's machinations. Support, acknowledgement, family, and even the chance at love. She's offered all of it to him, and of course, he wouldn't turn it down. Maybe she's sincere, Kakashi observed. Doubtful. She may have a fully matured Sharingan implant, hiding it under an advanced contact lens. Who's to say she won't try to release the Kyuubi from Naruto or control him in some way? There has only been one report and one legend of a single Uchiha controlling the Kyuubi. Yes, Madara, the man alleged to be behind Minato and Kushina's death. I have it on good authority that man is likely dead and has been for 3 years now. He would be who Orochimaru got the Sharingan from. Why are you telling me this now? And does Tsunade-sama know? Because I had another plan in the works, but I am considering abandoning it. It's likely she's aware of it anyway. I've been 5 steps behind her since well before her return. I fear for Naruto's safety and didn't think Jiraiya would allow him to enter a relationship with her. From my understanding, Jiraiya-sama doesn't allow Naruto to do anything. Unfortunate, but you appear to be correct. This is why I need you, Kakashi. You aren't completely disinterested, but are removed enough to have a different perspective. My perspective is you should leave it alone. Naruto can protect himself, and if not, he has us. Why do you all assume that if she's planning something you'll have time to react? Or Naruto will even be whole for a rescue to be possible. He knew his former grandson was strong. Watching the young man train Tsunade was evidence enough. But Orochimaru was different and could not be underestimated. Have you tried foregoing the games and just speaking directly and plainly to Naruto? Sure. He might tell you to stuff it, but he's not a petulant child. He won't let his feelings outweigh sound advice. If that doesn't work and you're sure she's a threat to Naruto and subsequently the village, then flip a coin and kill one of them. That's not funny, Kakashi. I'm not joking. If you truly believe she's a threat, if there is nothing else motivating you, then neutralize the threat. Sometimes the most heroic thing you can do will appear villainous. Remember when you told me that? I do. Because the village came before everything. Not even my loyalty to Minato-sensei was an excuse to jeopardize it, risk conflict with Kumo or Iwa. It was for the village. Just know, wherever you land on that, I'll be on Naruto's side. I've been manipulated by you enough for a lifetime. Yarne, Kakashi said before disappearing via a shunshin. So the guy says, lady, that's not a soap dispenser. Naruto finished and watched as Manda laughed. The two had been breaking the ice. Naruto was glad the snake wasn't as nakedly hostile as the stories made it appear. Even if Gamabunta considered him something of a savage, he respected his power. Alright, boy, I'm sure you know why you're here. Seeing if I'm worthy of Orochi-chan. Yes, I won't let what happened with Hiruzen happen again. He threw her away like a used whore just to save face. I need to know your intentions, Naruto. Naruto felt flushed and embarrassed at the question. He knew his intentions, he had a plan, but just confessing to her giant snake daddy felt weird. And uncool. And awkward. But he couldn't allow his reluctance to be read as dishonesty, so Naruto answered. I care about her, Manda-sama. I don't know what the future entails, but whatever it is, I'd like to have her in my life. She's precious, ugh, so lame, to me, and I only want the best for her. Alright, kid. Geez. Didn't Bagheera teach you to keep a tighter rein on your emotions? The snake boss asked. Naruto had to fight down his annoyance, wondering if he was simply being trolled. I won't be eating you today, but I will keep watch. You start to look like that old monkey and you'll deal with me. I am nothing like the old man, believe it. We shall see. But as of now, you have my blessing to court Orochi-chan properly. But if you ever have kids, they have to be snake summoners, not toad. Wah. Okay. What about the Panthers? Granny Bast made it a clan contract with the Uzumaki. That's fine, you just keep the cutthroat pussycat away from me, Manda ordered. Naruto nodded in agreement and felt the same little snake wrap around his wrist, transporting him back to Orochi's kitchen. She was at her counter preparing to chop something, making a late breakfast. Naruto approached her, and while she knew, the Sannin never turned around nor acknowledged his return. Not even when she felt his arms around her waist. That wasn't very nice, Tobayo, he whispered. I have never claimed to be nice, Naruto-kun, she responded, continuing her prep work, even as she felt his hand slide into her robe. But you can be sweet even. Don't worry, your secret is safe with me, Naruto responded. Orochi moaned. One of Naruto's hands traveled north and the other headed, at a teasingly slow pace, south. Good. If these people think they don't have to fear me, they may try to hold actual conversations with me. Naruto laughed but said nothing else, bantering being far from his mind. Orochi agreed, having been still turned on from previously. As she felt her former student preparing to take her from behind, Orochimaru was internally pleased. Just a few short weeks ago he would not have done this. He was shy or uncomfortable about sex, more overly respectful. She didn't know why, maybe her history with Hiruzen or Naruto not wanting her to feel used, but she had to rid him of it. One of the things she adored about him was his passion, and she'd accept nothing less in that aspect of their lives. A gentleman in the sheets benefited no one. He learned quickly, to both their benefits. And as a small gasp escaped her lips upon being entered, she was pleased. Clearly, Manda had, to some extent, accepted Naruto, so she wouldn't have to worry about that any longer. Maybe Manda would start behaving normally again. She gripped the counter tightly as Naruto increased his pace, reveling in the sensation and the sounds he was making. He might be aiming for a quickie in the kitchen, but she knew better. They'd be in her bed shortly, hours having gone by in a blink of an eye. Orochi frowned when she felt Naruto pull out. She wasn't given time to voice her displeasure as she felt herself turned around and hoisted into the air. With practiced ease, she adjusted to the position change, kissing her lover deeply as she rolled her hips. Maybe you should create a clone so we can finish this upstairs, she suggested, and Naruto complied. She giggled at the annoyed face the clone made. The silent protest of having to cook while the original was so obvious he may as well have shouted it. Playfully she blew the clone a kiss and winked as she was carried off. She wouldn't know immediately, but it was possible that another step of her plan would be completed today. If not, it wouldn't be due to lack of effort. It was just as she said, hours seemingly passed in a blink of an eye. Now, as her head lay on his chest, raising and lowering gently with each breath, she takes a moment to regard him. He changed so much over their time apart, having lost much of the roundness in his face but still retaining some softness. She also noticed that he seemed to be somewhere else mentally. His look wasn't one of worry but preoccupation. As if he could tell he was being watched, he looked down and smiled brightly at her. Sorry, lost in thought, he said. I hope I'm not boring you already, Naruto-kun. Never, was his response. Then what were you thinking about? She asked. Naruto squashed the impulse to lie and say, nothing. It felt wrong and he didn't want to hide things, but he also didn't want to burden her with his concerns, so he went for a change in topic. Have you considered starting on another sub-element? It didn't take a genius to see his dodge, but she would allow it for now. In the abstract, yes. The magnet release isn't exactly easy but is more than battle ready, as far as how I plan to use it. Do you have some thoughts? She inquired and Naruto nodded. If you're comfortable with Jiten, then Koten might be an easier step as it's something of a continuation. As opposed to a wholly different two-element combination. It surprised her that Naruto thought adding a third element into a manipulation would be easier, but he would have the experience. How should I start? Naruto chuckled as he could hear the excitement in her voice. He wouldn't blame her. Pushing his chakra to do as much as it could, the joy of a new development had been a solace to him for much of his life. And every new development just inspired him to top it, to try to do more. Do you have some iron sand on you? The Uzumaki watched as a seal glowed on her left arm and a clump of iron sand emerged on her palm. Start spinning it, slowly. The snake Sanin did just that. Her eyes widened slightly as she witnessed Naruto's hands be engulfed in golden chakra. She channeled chakra into the contact lens covering her Sharingan eye, wanting to remember this in perfect detail. As Naruto placed his hand under hers, she felt it warm as this potent, pure filling chakra was being transferred to her. The iron sand began to solidify into one mass and change into a blob of steel. Now you have to think of an object. The more familiar you are with the object, the easier the manipulation, Naruto said. Orochimaru considered what she'd like and quickly came to a conclusion. Instantly, she watched as the mass above her hand started to lengthen. In almost no time what was once sand was now a handleless Dao sword, the blade a little wider than a katana and the curve more gentle. But she also felt it, the change from Jiten to Koten, and despite what Naruto said it was incredibly complex. But it also felt like once learned, the shape manipulation felt more natural. Almost like Earth, if it wanted to be something else. She considered the exchange, her vast intellect more focused on why Naruto would suggest Koten than on how to mimic what she'd just experienced. She was cognitively diverse, or what some might call a high-functioning sociopath. She didn't process emotions like everyone, but she forced herself to understand them. His far-off gaze, his changing of the subject, and now the Koten led her to one conclusion: he was worried. That didn't feel that straightforward, Naruto-kun. Yay, it isn't easy, but I managed it, and I'm not a genius nor the strongest of a legendary trio. You flatter me, but I doubt I'd have enough time to get a handle on Koten, certainly not enough time to learn the impervious armor jutsu you're looking to teach me, she said. She paid no attention to the surprise on his face, placing the newly created sword on her dresser. Only once she returned did she speak again. You don't have to concern yourself with a. The lightning armor is formidable, but all jutsu have a weakness. Though, covering myself in high conductive material would seem like a really bad idea. The lightning armor trades the conductive and piercing power of Raiten for increased strength, speed, and near-perfect protection of the user's body. Unless one wielding it intentionally tries, it won't really shock nor pierce you. If that weren't the case, the lightning could be forced to divert to various conductive sources, making the user lose control. Unless you and A are on much better terms than I realized, there is only one way you could know that much about the lightning armor. No wonder Tsunde's been so smug, hinting at you teaching her something special. Does your girlfriend not deserve such a magnificent jutsu, Naruto-kun? Orochi asked, finishing with a pout. I thought you were my rival. I happen to be naked, so right now I am no such thing. And if you walk around like that all the time, then I guess we'll never be rivals. Orochimaru put one hand on her chest and another on her forehead in mock horror. Think of the scandal, Naruto-kun. What about my virtue? He didn't fight back, the laugh motivated by his girlfriend's antics. Once his fit was over, he did make one minor correction. I'm not teaching Oba-chan the lightning armor, I'm teaching her how to beat it. There is a lesser but more flexible derivative jutsu called lightning style, overdrive, and I did show her that. Well, I guess that's okay, Orochi responded, knowing about that jutsu herself. It would be absolutely destructive in Tsunde's hands, and the snake Sanin was looking forward to their next spar. With the grace befitting her years of experience, Orochimaru slid over Naruto and straddled him. She looked deeply into his eyes and reiterated her initial point: you don't have to fear for my safety. I am well equipped to fight the Raikage. I believe you, Naruto started before pausing and collecting his thoughts. I don't fear A, but I also don't understand him. What does he want? Why do this now? It can't just be what Rasa sent, can it? No, she reassured him, at most you'd simply be an excuse. It also doesn't surprise me you can't understand him. I have a theory, and if I'm right, it isn't a conclusion you'd reach, it just isn't like you. What do you mean? You look at the state of the shinobi villages and you see peace. Not perfect, but peace all the same, and you can't see why anyone would want to upset that, sacrifice lives for a tolerable status quo. But that is the thinking of someone that believes in the wall of fire, of the very ideas underpinning the creation of Konoha. You have to remember, Hashirama-sama and Madara created Konoha to stop the senseless deaths of sending children to battle after battle. Every other village was created in response and out of fear of the Senju-Uchiha alliance. Even if some find it tolerable now, they were forced to change because of Konoha's mere existence. And ever since then, any attempt to radically change that, each shinobi war, Konoha's involvement resulted in the protection of the order it necessitated. During my time away, I started to see Konoha as this stagnate force that was keeping a lid on progress. I may feel the same way. Winning outright may not even be his aim. He could, simply, want to cripple the leaf for a generation or two. Tsukumo has the ability to set the course for the future. It's not worth it, Naruto said. Maybe not, but has understanding him changed anything? Not really. Don't be a hero, Naruto-kun, Orochimaru said. If war does come, don't be a fool and be merciful to your enemies. Maybe they aren't at fault, simply loyal to a cretin, but that's their problem. You have responsibilities to your clan, to your friends, and to me to come home in one piece. Don't let Jiraiya's silly ideology shorten your life. Kumo won't care, won't be swayed by your sacrifice. Fight with your full power. Promise me, she requested. She knew what she was doing by forcing this promise on him, but she needed to know he would be selfish and prioritize his happiness. Maybe the shinobi world needed a hero, but it'd have to find someone else. He was hers. Hers and no one else's. There are times for mercy, Orochi-chan. There are things worth sacrificing yourself for. My clan, my friends, you. I can't promise to never do that, but I do promise to always do my best to come home. I won't pursue a fool's peace, and if the worst happens and Kumo calls for war, I'll give them all they can handle and then some, Tabayo. That'll do, for now, she said, and was awarded a face-splitting grin. I do have one more question. That golden chakra, was that the Kyuubi? Yay. We're totally buds now. Oh. And that's why it isn't so malicious. Yup. Naruto was cut off by the sound of a distinctive knock, and I would love to explain how, but Oba-chan is here, so I need to go get ready, Naruto said. As he grabbed his clothes, he gave her a quick peck and teleported to his room. Nice ass, Uzumaki, an unwanted guest said. Naruto turned around, hands darting toward his groin. What the hell, Karen-chan? Why are you in my room, Tabayo? Some guy dropped off Jiraiya-sama and your suits. I was hanging it up because I'm a wonderful cousin. I wasn't expecting a show. And you're still not getting one. Then you're going to need to larger hands. Naruto's face started to match his hair. Get out, Databayo. Fine, geez. Karen exited and Naruto ran into his private bathroom, bemoaning that his father probably never had to deal with stuff like this. The double date went well, for the most part. Keeping to her word, Orochi was nice to Jiraiya. It was the other patrons not used to seeing the snake Sannin in something as slinky as a black cocktail dress that were causing a problem. Though, when she casually mentioned anyone looking to keep their eyes should keep them off her, that changed. And Jiraiya, meeting her halfway, was respectful as well. He even managed not to complete disassemble when Orochi mentioned Naruto meeting Manda. It was a lovely evening, filled with good company, food and copious amounts of alcohol for Tsunade and Jiraiya. As the foursome vacated the Platinum Lotus, one of the finest restaurants in Konoha, Naruto chose to walk Orochi home and Jiraiya did the same for Tsunade. It had been mostly silent between the two Sannin, their walk illuminated by the starlit sky. It wasn't tense, but it wasn't a companionable silence either. The two had so much unsaid between them, and with more life behind them than in front, they each wondered if that would ever change. Tsunade tugged at Jiraiya's black suit jacket, the garment hanging off her shoulders to combat some of the briskness of the night air. I know you convinced Naruto to come along, so I would agree with this after you asked me. Jiraiya grinned. I had no doubt. Still, I think it was worth it. It was fun. I could certainly use more of that. Heavy is the head, Jiraiya said, not finishing the quote. Tsunade nodded. I knew it would be, but Sensei couldn't continue on and you wouldn't have taken the chair, so that left me. A position I never wanted, living someone else's dream. Sometimes that's all we can do for the dead. I wonder what Minato would say. If I'd redeemed myself over the last 3 years, if he'd forgive me. You really did love him like a son, Tsunade observed. I did. I never got it, how you could leave. How we all seemed to rate so much lower. Not until Minato did I really understand the hopelessness of seeing your future taken away. It wasn't that you didn't care about us, you just couldn't see a path forward, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you. I am, too, Jiraiya. I knew how you felt, I should have reached out. Who knows how things could have been different. Nothing else was said for the rest of the walk, not until they reached Tsunade's doorstep. Tonight was fun, we should do it again sometime, Jiraiya said. Yay, I wouldn't mind that, Tsunade responded, handing her former teammate his suit jacket. They bid each other good night and Jiraiya made his way home, feeling more hopeful about certain aspects of his life than he had in some time. Like Tsunade, Orochimaru was also sporting a suit jacket around her shoulders. Naruto's charcoal gray sharkskin jacket fitting a little better on her than Jiraiya's on Tsunade. As they neared Orochi's manor, the proximity between the two became closer. Accidental brushes of the arm or hand grew in commonality. The accidental became intentional as Naruto wrapped his arm around the Sanin's waist, stealing a kiss under the streetlight. You staying tonight? She asked. You're not sick of me, yet? He inquired, cheekily. I'm just as surprised as you, Orochi responded. Knowing he'd been one-upped, he retaliated with another kiss. It was meant to be quick but transitioned into something else entirely. Not wanting to waste time, the two shunshed to Orochi's. Naruto pulled her into another kiss, her back against the door. On separate he whispered, someone's here, she nodded having sensed a presence as well and had a better than good idea of who it might be. Wordlessly, Naruto departed and Orochi straightened herself up before she entered her home. Strutting to the location of her intruder, she saw her sensei sitting in a chair with a beaten and restrained Kabuto beside him. Why are you here? She asked, foregoing any hint of game playing. Before I answer that, why doesn't Naruto drop the genjutsu and join us? There won't be any need for an assassin's strike under the cover of darkness. Instantly, several shimmers appeared and it was revealed that Naruto had snuck in 3 shadow clones along with himself. I counted only 2 shadow clones, I really must be slipping. You can ruminate about your monumental decline elsewhere, what do you want? To put an end to this war of ours, Orochimaru. To reach some sort of ceasefire before things escalate to a point where there is only one option, you try to kill me or I try to kill you. The snake Sanin was shocked by this, assuming her sensei would never give up trying to entrap her. But he was right, there weren't many more places to go before they had to try to kill one another. A part of her would love to see him dead after having been brought low and thoroughly shamed. It would be a fitting conclusion to their tale. Not for the affair. She wouldn't deny she had some affection for the man and respected him as a ninja, but compared to Naruto, Hiruzen was just a cure for her boredom. She also didn't care about the abortion, having a child wasn't in her career plans at the time and she'd seen his other kids, they were hardly impressive. No, the burning hatred she had for Hiruzen Sarutobi rested on one thing. To save his marriage he spun a tale about his seductress of a student who used her wiles to secure her selection as the next Hokage. This ensured he wouldn't, for any reason, ever allow her to replace him. He killed her dream, all to avoid the consequences of his actions. She often, bitterly, thought that was the best Hiruzen had ever fucked her. So, she harmed his precious family, spat on his will of fire and made him eat seeing her as his favorite student. But she didn't need that anymore. She'd won. He departed in scandal and shame and more importantly, she had Naruto and continuing to one-up her sensei could jeopardize that. And whatever upheaval may happen outside the village, she needed things to remain stable here for the immediate future. She'd won. It was a total victory. She decided to sit down and hear the defeated man out. As Hiruzen began to share the details of why Kabuto was beaten up, neither the Sandaime nor Orochimaru were paying much attention to Naruto. He was remaining silent, but they simply could not hear the most important conversation happening in the room. The old man lies. I can sense his duplicity as if it were a 10th tale, Naruto. Thanks, Kurama. If he endages her, I know I'll lose Konohamaru and maybe even Kurenai sensei, but I'll erase him. Even now, the prospect doesn't please you. I never truly wanted the old man dead, just to either do better or get out of the way. And, as much as I hate it, I can't completely forget about how he was when I was younger. I was so angry back then, I could have become someone you could have never respected. That has to count for something. But my gratitude has limits and he's long crossed them. What's the plan? Kurama asked. He could do very little for his friend. He knew Naruto was telling the truth, wishing the aged monkey would stop with his meddling. I don't know. I really don't know. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.